Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kartika Nair and you're watching Synchro Shakti. Today we're looking at the topic of anxiety. Now, I tell my students if you want to overcome anxiety, you've got to understand anxiety, and that is what this whole video is about. I myself come from an anxiety background. If anxiety was to be seen as a scale, I have been on every side of that scale, including the further edge of that scale, which is anxiety disorders. I've been through all of it, so I can tell you from personal experience as well as a coach and trainer who's worked with a lot of people over so many years, how to navigate through anxiety. So let's look into that today. So when we think of the word anxiety, we're looking at two things majorly. The first thing is what's happening in your mind, and the second thing is what's happening in your body. You can navigate through both of them and neutralize both of them. So what's happening in your mind is a lot of what if thinking. What if this happens? What if that happens? Along with the what if thinking, there is also movies that are playing, images that are playing of you actually seeing yourself in that dreaded situation, that you might be in the hospital room, or that you're dying, or someone else is dying, or you're falling off, or your people are laughing at you. Whatever is the fear, or you losing money, being on the street, you're seeing the movie playing, and anxiety will convince you that whatever you're seeing is completely real and true. That's the mechanism. We're going to deal with that today. But there's also this other thing happening in the body, which is a fight or flight response. Fight or flight response is it's a survival mechanism that the body has. It's evolved in us for so long, since ancient human times. So we're going to discuss all that soon. So if you can understand these physical sensations of anxiety, you can overcome anxiety as well. So let's try to understand this anxiety. Anxiety is not the problem. Anxiety is not the enemy. Anxiety is not the monster. Your fight is not with anxiety. Anxiety is a self-loving protective mechanism. It is a self-loving protective mechanism. Think of anxiety as a bodyguard, or like a little puppy that doesn't want you to leave the house, or a overprotective mother who just read a lot of stuff on WhatsApp and is now scared to send you out. So anxiety is just trying to keep you safe. So someone that's trying to lovingly keep you safe is not the enemy. But anxiety feels horrible because there's physical sensations and there is all this mental noise, which seems like a huge issue, but anxiety is not the issue. The issue is what is causing the anxiety, which is the threat, okay? The threat that is causing the anxiety. In this case, for you, it might be health anxiety, it could be financial anxiety, it could be relationship anxiety, the fear of losing control in a certain area of your life. That threat is the problem, not the anxiety. The anxiety is just a self-loving protective mechanism. So going back to ancient human times, those days we had to survive through actual physical threats around us. So the brain had to evolve to make sure that we survived. Because anytime a saber-toothed tiger could kill us, or a woolly mammoth could kill us, or starvation could kill us, or other tribes could kill us. So we had to have a hyper-alert mind to calculate things in order to stay extremely safe, right? Now that same mind is getting triggered even today, but there is no woolly mammoth, there is no saber-toothed tiger, there is no tribe that's going to kill us. There is the mind that is anticipating and worrying about what might happen. So this threat of what might happen, this fear of losing control, or this resistance that you have to something happening, that is a problem, and your anxiety is just kicking up because it's trying to protect you from that threat. So I'll give you an example. So I had a fear of puking. Okay, so there is an actual word for it, but I forgot what it is. This was quite a long time back, but for many years I had a fear of puking. Puking to me represented being weak, being sick. People will laugh at you, people will think you're dirty, yucky, all of these things, and they would think less of you if you puked. And so I had a massive fear of puking. But here's the thing, I also had an anxiety disorder. One of the symptoms of anxiety is nausea, right? Why nausea? Because I'll explain that whole thing soon. But nausea would come up for me. So when I wake up in the morning itself, I'm anxious. Not now, I'm talking about, let's say, 2013. Okay, I wake up in the morning, I wake up with anxiety, go to bed, I go to bed with anxiety. My body is forever and always in a state of anxiety. My brain had wired itself that way. So one day I had stayed over at a friend's house and I woke up with anxiety, and obviously people who have anxiety disorders also have an issue with food. It's not easy for them to eat food because when they look at food, they feel full already because they're anticipating the feeling of fullness. The feeling of fullness would make me feel nausea. The feeling of nausea would make me feel out of control. Feeling out of control would trigger off a panic attack for me. So the moment I saw food, I would start getting panic attack. But other people don't know this. You're alone in your experience. You can't explain it to other people. Only those who had panic disorder can understand panic disorder, right? So I was staying over at her house and we had to wake up in the morning and go to interviews for Australian universities. Those days we were giving interviews to go study abroad and things like that. So I show up in the morning, already I'm anxious, I barely can eat, and we get into the subway and there I was feeling this nausea and I was so afraid of puking. And the more afraid I was of puking, the more I was resisting puking with all my being. I was like, no, don't puke, because I'm scared of people's judgments around what would happen if I puke in a subway. And I was fighting it so much, and what you fight, you fuel. What you resist persists and intensifies, right? So I was fighting it so much, I was feeling miserable and so out of control and so anxious and just so horrible. And I looked at my friend and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to puke. I can't control it anymore. And she looked at me and she's like, okay, so what? And I looked at her going, what do you mean, so what? I mean, I built it up in my head to being such a horrible thing. What do you mean, so what? She's like, so we'll tell people you ate something funny. It's okay, everyone pukes every day, somebody's puking, what is the big deal? And I said, you don't think it's a big deal? It's not a big deal. In that moment, instantly my resistance to puking dropped. The moment the resistance dropped, I no longer saw it as a threat, and I said, okay, if I puke, you'll just tell them that I ate something funny. So what? People understand that. The anxiety washed away from me. I didn't feel anxious and I had a great day. And this is while I was in the heart of my panic disorder. So that was a moment when I realized that if I drop my resistance to the threat, where the threat is no longer really a threat, and I know that I can navigate through it, that after that happens, the worst that can happen is that, okay, I die. Okay, after that, what is that? Nothing happens after I die. If I have a reincarnation, great. I will start my life all over again and I'll have new teachers and new learning. And what's so bad about that? Nothing. So I drop resistance. So when I realized that when you drop resistance to the threat, the anxiety around that also begins to disappear. So how do you drop resistance to a threat? Let's look at that. There are many ways. I can make a huge YouTube series or like 10 books on how to drop resistance to threat, which means you no longer fear something. I will give you a few ways in which you can do that today. When the threat is actually real, where it's really life or death, you don't have enough time to sit and worry about it. So the fact that you're worried gives you a good sense that you're actually not dying. The second thing you need to know is that you don't know enough to worry about anything. You don't know the full picture. What you think is going on badly, or the ways that you're interpreting this tiny little version that you're seeing, if you saw it a little bit more, if you saw the bigger picture, you would realize that all of this is nothing to worry about because it's all going to make sense soon. So always trust the bigger picture. You don't know enough to be worried about things. Third thing is this thing called walking yourself through the fear. So going back to the puking example, what's the worst that can happen? I puke. Okay, then what happens after that? Everyone laughs at me. Okay, then what happens after that? People think I'm weak. Okay, then what happens after that? Nothing, the next stop comes, people will leave. Okay, then what happens after that? I'll be embarrassed and depressed. Okay, then what happens after that? I will feel suicidal. Okay, then what happens after that? Then I will be alone in life. Okay, then what happens after that? Then I have no quality of life. Okay, then what happens after that? I end my life. Okay, then what happens after that? Nothing. Okay, then what happens after nothing? I might reincarnate. Okay, then what happens after that? I'll have new teachers, new learning, new experiences. I'll find my way. Something else will work out. Okay, what's so bad about that? Nothing. So now my resistance to puking is gone. Another way in which you can do this is asking yourself, let's say I'm in driving school, I've been learning to drive, so I'd had a lot of nervousness about getting behind the wheel. What's the worst that can happen? I could get into an accident. Okay, then what happens after that? I pay the insurance. Okay, then what happens after that? I don't go to school anymore. Okay, then what happens after that? I do other things in life. Okay, then what happens after that? I still thrive. I still enjoy the life that I have. I can still move on. What's so bad about that? Nothing. So I drop resistance to that. Okay. So these are ways in which you can drop resistance. It's called walking yourself through fear. I'll give you one more. This is called the fears list. The fears list is where you take a sheet of paper and you write out a full list of everything you're scared of. What if this happens? What if that? Whatever context it is, your friend calls you out to a party because you have social anxiety. Write out what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Or you're worried about getting sick, or you're worried about something else. Write out all the things you're worried about. Fill up on 5 sheets if you need to. Make that list. It's not manifesting because the vibration is already inside of you. You just have to, your catharsis, you're releasing it. You're releasing the vibration by writing it down. Then you take another sheet of paper and you write out everything that is positive aspects of that area of life. So what are you looking forward to? What is going well already? What good news have you heard about it? What good things happened in that area before? You start working through, for example, if someone calls you out to a party and you're scared, you write out everything you're scared of. In your positive aspects list, write out what you're looking forward to. So something like, I like the bumpiness of on the road when I'm taking a taxi. I like to look at the sky. I like to look at clouds. I like to look at trees. I like to look at people in their different clothes. I like music. I like the way the bass feels. I like looking at different colors of clothes that people are wearing. I like music. I like cold water. I like ice. I like icy water. I like whatever you like. What are positive aspects? I also like that there are 1 or 2 people I do enjoy. I like listening to people's stories. I like showing up. I like dressing up. I like makeup. I like how my feet look in heels. I like. Now when your positive aspects list is twice that of your fears list or even more, your brain begins to focus on the list that is larger. So when you actually end up going there, your experience is very different. Only when you're actually faced with that challenge can you actually deal with it. How much ever you plan to deal with it beforehand, you will not be able to. You can stay up all night wondering what to do, but when the actual event happens, only then something else will happen. Only from the moment can the action come. You cannot pre-plan it, which brings us to the main part of overcoming anxiety, and that is living in the present moment. Living in the present moment means being very present with whatever is happening. If it's thoughts of anxiety, be aware of that. If it's emotions of anxiety, be aware of that. Ask for more. Go within the body. Witness the emotions. Hug it. Breathe through it. Allow it to come. 1 year of doing this, your brain gets rewired and you will not be that anxious person. That is what happened in my case. So I've brought, let's say I could teach a full 1 year course on anxiety. It's such a large topic, but I've kind of bumped it all together in this particular video. But let me know if all of this made sense to you. If yes, was it a value? If it was a value, comment below. What are your taking back points? Is it dropping resistance to the threat, realizing that there really isn't one? Is it knowing that you don't know enough to be worried, that there's always a greater picture? Or is it the fears list, or walking yourself through the fear? Which is it that you resonated with the most? But remember, the more you fight anxiety, the more it will become. The more you understand anxiety empathically, compassionately, the less it becomes. Over time, give it a year, 2 years of really embracing anxiety, it will heal. Okay? Having said that, reminding you, anxiety is just a self-loving protective mechanism. So someone that's loving you is not the problem. Stop making it worry by making threats. Look at the threat, neutralize the threat, because there really isn't anything to worry about. Once you understand that, anxiety also will take a backseat. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Namaste.